in 2003. The Latimer House principles reaffirm the important and distinct roles of the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary, and the importance also of the separation of powers between the three. So this is a timely moment. This is an especially appropriate year for us to consider what is the future for the Commonwealth in the 21st century, and what role can you as legislators play, and we as the CPA play in that future. The CPA has existed for more than a century, and the core mission of the association is to bring parliaments and parliamentarians together to learn from one another. The Commonwealth Charter, the UN Agenda 2030, and the Latimer House principles each provide powerful tools to assist the CPA in our work, and I hope you as parliamentarians in your work. I think it's crucial as we contemplate the future of the Commonwealth that part of that contemplation is having an open and frank discussion about the Commonwealth's past, including the legacies of colonialism and of slavery. The Commonwealth in the 21st century is and must remain a partnership of equal nations with shared values and a commitment to work together to meet the huge challenges of the modern world. As was set out in my introduction, I started as the 8th Secretary General in August of 2020. Previously, I served as a British Member of Parliament. And one of my first priorities when I took over was to develop a new strategic plan for the CPA. And we consulted very widely with our member branches, also with external organisations, about what the CPA should be doing in the early part of the 2020s. In your response to that consultation in 2020, the Kenya branch of the CPA told us, and I good governance. And your submission went on to say, together with the attainment of the SDGs under Agenda 2030, a prioritisation of climate change will go a long way in supporting development and the pursuit of economic, social and cultural aspects of parliamentary democracy. We adopted that plan and launched it 2 years ago. It reaffirms our long-standing commitment to seeking a new legal status for the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association. We're seeking to be recognised in United Kingdom law that the CPA is an international interparliamentary organisation. I'm very pleased to take the opportunity of being here today to put on record my thanks to your former Speaker, now Attorney General, Honourable Justin Muturi, who served as Africa's representative on the working group which devised the proposal for a new legal status that was submitted to the United Kingdom government over 4 years ago. This has been a long struggle to try to secure this new status. And last week I met with the new United Kingdom Minister for the Commonwealth, Lord Goldsmith, to again make the case for primary legislation to secure that new legal status for the CPA. At our 65th Commonwealth Parliamentary Conference in Canada last August, it was agreed that if the United Kingdom government continues to refuse our request for a new legal status, we will begin the process of seeking expressions of interest by other Commonwealth countries to host the CPA international headquarters. And earlier this month, our executive committee agreed a set of benchmarks for such a potential relocation, and we are now developing an assessment framework and timeline. This will come back to our next EXCO meeting in Gibraltar in April, and I'm delighted that your member, Honourable Makali Malou, serves with distinction on our EXCO, and I know that Honourable Malou will play a very important and active role in those discussions in Gibraltar, and then again when we meet in Ghana in September and October for the 66th Commonwealth Parliamentary Conference. As Secretary General, I am determined to resolve this issue of the CPA's legal status so that we can move forward together as a strong and united organisation. Post-election seminars like this one have long been an important part of the CPA's work on parliamentary strengthening. Mutual learning from each other, lies at the very heart of the CPA's programme. I know that I will learn a lot this week, listening to the discussion, listening to platform speakers and engaging informally in conversation with participants. I'm confident that our resource team will enable and facilitate learning and debate throughout the seminar. At the CPA, we're also committed, as you heard earlier, to monitoring and evaluation of our work so that it has as much impact as possible. And in that spirit, our recommended benchmarks for democratic legislatures have been updated in the light of the Sustainable Development Goals. These benchmarks are an important set of tools in supporting the strengthening of parliaments. Perhaps our biggest innovation of recent years has been the setting up of the CPA Parliamentary Academy almost 2 years ago. The Academy is an online resource available to all CPA members to undertake courses in your own time. The feedback from participants has been very positive, and I strongly encourage honourable members and staff, if you haven't yet had the opportunity to participate in one of these courses, please do sign up and take part. I do appreciate that you are all incredibly busy people, but one of the great strengths of the Academy is that these courses can be undertaken whenever you have a spare moment. And I think that flexibility has contributed to the fact that more than 800 people so far have signed up to do Academy courses. The COVID pandemic and its associated periods of lockdown and remote working meant that parliaments and the CPA had to learn fast to adapt some of the traditional ways in which we have worked. Let us, first of all, remember today all of those who have lost their lives during this COVID pandemic. Let us also think of the many that are still living with COVID, and of course the significant social, economic and human cost of the pandemic. There are many policy lessons to learn from this pandemic, but I think also there are lessons about how we best support parliaments using technology and how parliaments can better connect with their own citizens. The Commonwealth has designated this year, 2023, as the Year of Youth. We were hearing earlier about the average ages of your cohort of parliamentarians and of the staff here in the National Assembly. We know that the pandemic affected everyone, but it didn't affect everyone equally. And we know that it had a particular effect on children and young people, with the closure of schools and colleges, learning lost, and significant effects on mental health and well-being. This impact has been felt right the way across the globe, but it's been felt especially by many who already face the greatest barriers in education, including persons with disabilities, girls and young women, and those living in the poorest communities. I know that Kenya has played an important leadership role on education for some time, including co-hosting with the United Kingdom in 2021 the Global Education Summit. My first visit to Kenya 6 years ago was as chair of the International Development Committee in the United Kingdom, and we were looking then at the important work being undertaken here in Kenya to engage with and achieve Sustainable Development Goal 4 on access to quality education for all. I think this Year of Youth provides all of us with a great opportunity but also a responsibility to engage more fully with young people. In November 2022, the CPA held a very successful Commonwealth Youth Parliament in Trinidad. We're now exploring further activities for this year to support you in your outreach and engagement with young people, as well as supporting young members of Parliament throughout the Commonwealth. Inclusiveness is an important part of the Commonwealth Charter. The CPA seeks to reflect this in our work, most notably with our three amazing networks: CWP, Commonwealth Women Parliamentarians, our Small Branches Network, and the Commonwealth Parliamentarians with Disabilities Network. The CWP is now chaired by the Honourable Zainab Gimba from Nigeria. Its role is to provide a voice for women within the CPA and to promote increased representation of women in Parliament throughout the Commonwealth. I know that in your election last year, we saw a welcome increase in the number of women elected, but I know also, as in most other countries in the Commonwealth, there is still a long way to go towards the ultimate goal of equal representation for women and men. And we are addressing this within the CPA itself, with a set of reforms agreed at our General Assembly last year, designed to increase the numbers of women represented on our Executive Committee and at our General Assembly. One tool to do this is to promote more gender-sensitive parliaments. Gender audits are one of the tools for doing that, and we are exploring how we can support our members to undertake gender audits in the future, and I would welcome a discussion with the Parliament of Kenya about doing one here. Our newest CPA network is the Commonwealth Parliamentarians with Disabilities, and I would like to take this opportunity to thank the former Member of Parliament from Kenya, Honourable Denisa Gatti, who served as chair of this network until your election last year. Her successor as chair is the Honourable Laura Kanushu from Uganda. Persons with disabilities continue to face barriers of discrimination, exclusion and prejudice throughout the world, and our Disabilities Network seeks to provide practical support to persons with disabilities and to parliaments to enable full and equal participation. The CPA is divided into 9 regions, and those regions play a critical role in the delivery of our work. Africa Region Secretariat is based in Tanzania and works very closely with branches across Africa and very closely with us in the CPA Secretariat. I am immensely grateful to them and to the Africa Regional Exco for all the work that they do to ensure that the CPA has impact throughout this region. I've now been in this role for 2.5 years, and it is a privilege to serve as the CPA Secretary General. I find that I am learning all the time about the work of parliaments across the Commonwealth on crucial issues, from climate change to gender equality, from technology and innovation to the Sustainable Development Goals. We also know that there are wide disparities in the situations faced by different Commonwealth countries, but also many challenges in common. The Right Honourable Speaker and I were in Australia earlier this month for the Conference of Speakers and Presiding Officers of the Commonwealth. There was a lot of discussion there about security. Security for individual parliamentarians, security for parliaments as institutions. The conference also shared experiences of how different parliaments had adapted to the COVID pandemic. And I am committed to working with your Speaker and with speakers and presiding officers throughout the Commonwealth through CSPOC to build upon these important areas of discussion. Strong, independent parliaments are vital, but we know that the existence of these parliaments cannot be taken for granted. Legislation, oversight, holding the executive to account are crucial functions of the legislature. But another is to make sure that you are connected with citizens and civil society. The Commonwealth has a plethora of organisations and networks with whom we work, in the same way that a healthy, diverse, global civil society is good for the Commonwealth, so too is a strong civil society important for the work of individual Commonwealth countries. And I will talk more about this in the session on Wednesday on outreach and education. In conclusion, as we mark the 10th anniversary of the Commonwealth Charter, let us take this opportunity to reflect on some of the commitments contained within it. I am personally by nature an optimist, but even the greatest optimist would have to admit that the scale of challenges facing the Commonwealth and the wider world at the moment is daunting. Whether we're talking about the climate crisis, the impact of armed conflict, food insecurity, authoritarianism, inequality, poverty, the violations of human rights, and the precarious state of our world economy, these challenges are large. Yet it is in such difficult times that we most need and most benefit from strong networks and organisations so that we can both support and learn from each other. For the 21st century, the Commonwealth and the CPA have a great opportunity to make a real and positive difference. The Commonwealth is not just a secretariat based in Marlborough House in London supporting 56 governments. It is a complex set of networks and organisations. Similarly, the CPA is not just a network of 20 staff there to support 18,000 legislators and parliamentary staff. It is there for the people of the Commonwealth, as you are here for the people of Kenya. Above all, the Commonwealth needs to be relevant and needs to speak to its citizens.
Mr. Suleiman Mohammed, Attorney General of Somalia. Honorable Advocate Ms. Batohi Shamila, Director of Public Prosecution, South Africa. Honorable Mr. Deng Adija Chol, Director of Public Prosecution, South Sudan. Honorable Sylvester Mwakitalo, Director of Public Prosecutions, Tanzania. My sister, Honorable Lady Justice Francie Abodo, Director of Public Prosecutions, Uganda. Honorable Phiri Gilbert Anford, Director of Public Prosecutions, Zambia. Honorable Nelson Mutsonziwa, Acting Prosecutor General, Zimbabwe. Consular Mohammed Khalaf, Director of the International Cooperation and Human Rights Department of the Egyptian Prosecutor General Office. Honorable Mr. Satijil Bolel, who is a Honorable Emeritus former Director of Public Prosecutions, Mauritius. Your Excellency, in addition, we have representatives from Angola, from Burundi, from the Central African Republic, from Gambia, from Ghana, from Madagascar, from Malawi, Mauritania, Mozambique, Namibia, Republic of Congo, Sao Tome and Principe, Senegal, Seychelles, Sierra Leone, Sudan, Tunisia. Ladies and gentlemen, in the interest of time, there's a very long list, Your Excellency. I will skip that and go straight to the speech. Good morning, habari asubuhi, sabal khair, bonjour, bom dia. I'm delighted to welcome you all to the 16th Annual General Meeting and Africa Prosecution Association Conference. Welcome to Mombasa, karibu Mombasa, marhaban bikum fi Mombasa, benview Mombasa, benvenuto ao Mombasa. Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya and Commander-in-Chief of the Kenya Defense Forces, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, I want to take this opportunity to sincerely thank you, Your Excellency, for gracing us with your presence during this prosecution, for your commitment towards fostering the fair administration of justice across the criminal justice sector, protecting human rights and upholding the rule of law. Your Excellency, this conference comes against the backdrop of the 4th International Association of Prosecutors African and Indian Ocean Region Conference, which was held from 16th to 20th May 2022, where we had the honor of hosting prosecutor operation in the fight against transnational organized crimes. Your Excellency, I'm happy to note that whilst the membership of the Africa Prosecutor Association is 32, today's conference has expanded beyond that to consist of 43 countries, the first ever of its kind, that Kenya and a pioneer within the criminal justice sector. It further represents Africa's commitment to tackling a global challenge with a global response through strengthened national, regional, and international collaboration frameworks. Indeed, it is the dream of every prosecutor to contribute to the economic and social development of their country, as well as the safety of our people through the fair and effective administration of justice. Today, Your Excellency, that dream is closer home as we converge here, and I therefore take this opportunity to thank each one of you for having honored us with your presence. Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, this conference affords us with the opportunity to engage, deliberate, network, and share experiences and best practices towards the development of efficient and effective strategies in tackling transnational organized crimes. As we are all aware, globalization and advancement in technology continue to foster growth and development across the world. However, this growth is also being exploited by criminal entities to advance their nefarious activities, hindering the achievement of our aspiration as exposed in the Africa Union Agenda 2063 of a peaceful and secure continent. And Sustainable Development Goal 16, which emphasizes the importance of combating all forms of organized crime by 2030. Dear colleagues, transnational organized crimes such as money laundering, cyber crimes, including online child sexual exploitation and data theft, illicit financial flows, terrorism, violent extremism, and environmental crimes threaten our continental, regional, and national security and undermine the rule of law. It is therefore important for us as legal practitioners and experts within Africa to enhance our efforts towards tackling transnational organized crimes. This requires us to constantly textualize transnational organized crimes to the African context, so that our unique context is incorporated into our design of legal strategies and interventions. By doing so, we will become more effective in countering and combating transnational organized crimes. Together, we must develop enhanced formal and informal cooperation mechanisms through the signing and upholding of MOUs and harmonized legislation, policies and guidelines, whilst continuously sharing best practices, skills, and expertise. Towards this, Kenya is undertaking to establish its own prosecution training institute that will be available for use to the continent. Colleagues, we have a critical role in ensuring that our continent continues to embrace constitutionalism, the rule of law, and the safeguarding of human rights as a core strategy in the fight against transnational organized crimes. Allow me to refer to our experience in Kenya. We have seen that when we embrace constitutionalism and the rule of law, it can serve as a critical plank in securing our nation against criminal threats by improving and growing confidence in our criminal justice system. Based on this experience, we created our own training institute as a premier prosecutorial research and knowledge management institution. I would thus like to encourage you all to partner with us through our prosecution training institute to enhance capacity building so that we may harness proactive, innovative, and preventive strategies that are reflective of today's evolving crime landscape, as well as the need to safeguard human rights. I want to affirm to you, Your Excellency, that the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, Kenya, will continue to promote and facilitate continental and international cooperation in upholding the rule of law, whilst ensuring adherence to prosecutorial ethics and human rights. I wish to reiterate my gratitude to His Excellency the President of the Republic of Kenya and his administration for the steadfast commitment to safeguarding justice by promoting the independence of all criminal justice institutions. Your Excellency, since assuming office, you have repeatedly affirmed that the rule of law will be the cornerstone of your administration, and by joining us today, it is a sure testament of this commitment. Thank you once again for your commitment to ensuring the fair administration of the criminal justice system, Your Excellency. I also wish to extend my gratitude to the Executive Committee of the Africa Prosecutors Association under the able leadership of Justice Hamad El-Sawi, Prosecutor General of the Arab Republic of Egypt, for its contribution in the planning, coordination, overall support of this conference. Finally, my appreciation goes to Her Excellency Ambassador Henriette Geiger and His Excellency Ambassador Sebastian Groth for joining and supporting us in commemorating this auspicious occasion. In addition, my heartfelt appreciation extends to our development partners, the Bureau of International Narcotics and Law Enforcement Affairs, headed by Kevin Higgins, the German Agency for International Cooperation, the Attorney General's Alliance Africa, represented by Marcus Green, the European Union through the Anti-Money Laundering and Counter-Financing of Terrorism in the Eastern, Southern, Central Africa and Yemen program, and the United Nations of Drugs and the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime. Your commitment to enhancing the African continent's capacity to ensure a robust criminal justice sector has been fully exemplified through your partnership in this conference. My special thanks also goes to the experts who will share their invaluable experiences and good practices with us. I also wish to thank the Honorable Abdulswamad Sharif Nasir, the Governor of Mombasa County, for hosting us. We look forward to, and I hope you will be able to sightsee and tour the beautiful historical sites of the coastal city. I once again take this opportunity to welcome you all to the beautiful country of Kenya and thank you for honoring our call to attend and participate in this conference. I have no doubt that this forum will strengthen our resolve to cooperate and coordinate for effective prosecution of cross-border crimes. This, I believe, has the possibility of achieving the Africa we want, a more peaceful, stable, and developed Africa for this generation and posterity. Thank you all, and God bless you all. Your Excellency, I will take, with your permission, the honor to invite a few individuals to come and say a few words, not more than 2 minutes. And I'll be standing right next to you. And I will start with Kevin Higgins from INL.
Your Excellency, Mr. President, Your Excellency, Prime Cabinet Secretary, Mr. Governor, DPP, assembled guests, all protocols observed. On behalf of my ambassador, Meg Whitman, mine is just to welcome all the assembled attendees from the Africa Prosecutors Association and to say that the United States remains committed to partnering with you and with Africa as a continent in supporting the fight against transnational organized crime. Whether that's through training at our International Law Enforcement Academy in Botswana, or through bilateral assistance programs with many of your governments, or through programs such as the East Africa Transnational Organized Crime Program, we are committed to working with you to build regional and continental networks to combat these problems of human trafficking, wildlife trafficking, narcotics trafficking, cybercrime, etc. So, welcome to Mombasa. We're honored to be here with you, and we're proud to be supporting this event, and wish you a very pleasant conference. Karibuni sana.
I now wish to invite His Excellency Ambassador Sebastian Groth, the German Ambassador to Kenya.
His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya, Dr. William Ruto, Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi, the Governor of Mombasa, Sharif Nasir, the Director of Public Prosecutions, Nordin Haji, all people representing African legal and judiciary institutions. Thank you very much for giving me a brief opportunity to welcome you. I'm really impressed by the sheer number of experts from all over the continent. You just said the number, more than 42 countries represented. For Germany, it's a big privilege to partner together with colleagues from the European Union, UK and the US and Japan to be a partner of this endeavor. We think that the cooperation in judicial and police and prosecution on the continent is extremely important. As was said earlier, crime is globalizing, so has also the legal side has also to globalize. And what you're doing here in this regard, I think, is very, very important. Germany, through our cooperation agency, mainly through GIZ, is partnering with a number of EU countries. We have one stronghold here in Kenya. We are supporting to build and strengthen the police structures. We have a good governance program and also a global program combating illicit financial flows. So our support to the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution, but also the mentioned Prosecution Training Institute is very, very important for us. And we think that it helps both the execution of the mandate of the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution, but, and this is very, very important politically for us, also helps the cooperation of the African countries and the African Union. So transnational organized crime will not succeed if international cooperation is effective. So that's why your work, I think, is so important here. We welcome you here in Mombasa. It's a beautiful city, and on behalf of German government, I would like to welcome you once again and wish you a very fruitful, interesting days here in Mombasa, and we are very much looking forward also to the results of your deliberations. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I now have the honor of inviting Her Excellency, the Ambassador Henriette Geiger, the EU Ambassador, who is a key partner working with us. 2 minutes.
I will speak faster. Your Excellency, the President of the Republic, Dr. William Ruto, Your Excellency, Prime Cabinet Secretary Mudavadi, the Governor of Mombasa, all Your Excellencies and Honorables in this room. If I enumerate all of you, the 2 minutes will be up. So please, all protocols observed, bear with me. But I would very much like to welcome all the prosecutors from across the African continent. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a very important moment. And the EU is founded on fundamental freedoms and the rule of law and human rights, and that's why we're here today. In Kenya, we're implementing the EU's biggest justice sector reform program south of the Sahara. And we will start a new phase of 5 years just in March. With this program, we want to have better access to justice and a more efficient system for all Kenyans, serving all Kenyans equally. And we are very proud that the EU can contribute in a small measure to this. But we couldn't do this as a support and implementing agency without the courageous and very engaged partners in the justice sector. So we all know that the criminal justice chain is only as strong as its weakest links. So the prosecutors depend on the police, then we depend on the judges, and it's all interlinked. So we all know that if access to justice is compromised, it erodes not only trust of the citizens in their government, it also negatively impacts on investment. In a few weeks, the EU will host a large business and investment forum in Kenya, and hundreds of European companies and investors will explore opportunities in Kenya and assess the overall investment climate. External investors are much more likely to invest in stable countries where investment is secure and access to fair dispute resolution is guaranteed through an independent judiciary. And the role of effective, skilled, and I would like to underline courageous prosecutors is essential for the rule of law in any country. We know that organized criminal groups skillfully identify weaknesses in the legal framework, systems, and institutions, and ruthlessly exploit it to build on these weaknesses to construct their transnational crime networks. We all know that this region is especially vulnerable to different forms of organized crime, human trafficking, smuggling, and terrorism. This is very closely linked to illicit financial flows. That's why we pursue the follow the money approach to cut the money flows so illicit gains can no longer be enjoyed. I come to the end. Criminal networks are not only highly adaptable to changing circumstances, but they also shift very quickly geographically and to new sectors of exploitation. That's why this is so important that we all work together and we openly collaborate. We need to smarten up and act collectively. And the EU stands at your side. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I was tempted to eject you when you finally finished. I would now like to invite a few of our colleagues. As Madam SPP said, we have to change the program a little bit. So if I don't call you, it's because of the time constraint. His Excellency has another event, and we had agreed we'll try to wrap up by 11:30. I will call upon Advocate Shamila Batoi, Director of Public Prosecution, National Prosecution Authority of South Africa. I know we are lawyers and advocates, but 2 minutes.
Thank you very much. That's why I was running up. So I'm going to dispense with formalities, except Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya, ladies and gentlemen. This conference comes at a very opportune time when, after the COVID-19 pandemic, transnational organized crime has further entrenched itself on our continent. It is becoming one of the most serious and complex risks. Organized criminals are more embedded, more connected, better funded, and sadly more violent. At present, almost 2/3 of Africa's population, over 60%, live in countries with high levels of organized crime, high criminality, and more than 75% are living in countries with low resilience to organized crime. As a percentage of the GDP, illicit financial flows in Africa, largely generated by transnational organized crime in its various forms, are reportedly the highest in the world, with multinational corporations a lead contributor. And research has shown that developing nations were the net creditors to the rest of the world. In fact, far more money flows out of developing nations than into them, even in the form of aid. There is something fundamentally wrong with this picture, and we need to change it. In South Africa, we have come through high levels of corruption in the form of state capture, where some of the most powerful people were acting as mafia dons, sometimes with the full force and power of the state at its disposal. And what was one of the most pernicious aspects of this is that it was an attack from the inside, a stealthy and lethal war waged on the rule of law by the very people who swore an oath to protect and promote it. We must never allow that to happen. We as prosecutors must fight back. At a time when the rule of law is being stress-tested across the globe and transnational organized crime seeks to subvert this at every turn, as prosecutors we are called upon to lead efforts to uphold the rule of law, and we need to do so fearlessly and independently. But we cannot solve this problem on our own. We need to act with our partners, and importantly, under the radar are the regulatory bodies in our country. Everyone looks to the prosecutors to hold them accountable. Who are holding the bankers, the estate agents, those that facilitate money transfers? Nobody holds them to account, and it's important that we do. So our colleagues will discuss the technical aspects, but it's important for us at this high level that we cooperate and that we build trust with each other, and importantly, political will. Our colleagues have said we cannot succeed without political will, but also we need no political interference. It's vital for us as prosecutors. Colleagues, I'm rushing through I'm skipping things. I'm just going to say that as African prosecutors, we must harness the potential of our association to improve informal cooperation. And I repeat, informal cooperation, to facilitate the sharing of information, knowledge, experience, and also the capabilities of our prosecutors. There's a lot of talent in Africa, colleagues. We need to find them, we need to share them, and we need to cooperate more also with regard to asset recovery, both in the form of conviction and non-conviction based. And I conclude by saying we know that failure is not an option for our countries, for our continent, and for the people of Africa. It is a privilege to join hands in this collective fight for the future of accountability and the rule of law and the future of Africa and our children. I thank you.
Thank you very much. And I now call upon Mr. Babadoko Mohammed, Director of Public Prosecutions, Nigeria. What I've tried to do, Your Excellency, is to cover South Africa, North Africa, West Africa, and East Africa, at least one representative from each region. Welcome.
Thank you very much. His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya, Dr. William Ruto, please permit me to stand on already established protocols. As we are aware, terrorism and violent extremism, drug trafficking, and associated transnational organized crime continue to pose grave threat of existential proportion to Africa and indeed the world at large. From the Sahel to the Horn of Africa, the story is the same. Therefore, the theme of this conference, strengthening coordination and collaboration towards effective cross-border prosecution of transnational organized crime, is apt, timely, and relevant to our contemporary situation. These crimes, which are by their nature borderless and transnational, requires global cooperation and collaboration to overcome. That is why the importance of an assemblage of law enforcement practitioners such as this to engage in constructive dialogue and exchange of ideas on best practices cannot be overemphasized. I therefore commend the APA and the ODPP Kenya for putting together this laudable conference. I would also like to thank His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya, for his support and encouragement. We are particularly honored by your presence. I welcome you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mohammed. I now call upon Ms. Jamila Siddiq, Special Advisor to the Attorney General, at the Court of Secession of the Kingdom of Morocco. Ms. Jamila. اثنين دقيقة. 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Thank you, DBB Haji. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. فخامة رئيس جمهورية كينيا الشقيقة، معالي رئيس النيابة العامة الكينية الأستاذ حجي، أصحاب السعادة النواب، الحضور الكريم، أصحاب ممثلي الوفود والهيئات الدبلوماسية، إنه لشرف كبير أن أشارك معكم في هذه الجمعية، هذا الجمع الذي أحضره للمرة الثانية في هذه المدينة الجميلة الخضراء، مدينة مومباسا، أحسن مدينة على البحر الهادي. وأنا هنا أمثل السيد الداكي رئيس النيابة العامة للمملكة المغربية، الذي في آخر لحظة يعتذر لأنه كانت هناك وعكة صحية تعذر عليه ركوب الطائرة. بالمناسبة أتوجه بالشكر أنا والوفد المرافق لي بالشكر لفخامة رئيس الجمهورية وفخامة ممثل النيابة العامة الكينية وجميع من ساهم في إعداد هذا اللقاء الميمون إن شاء الله. لا نختلف، نحن هنا مجتمعون الدول الإفريقية حول ما تشكله الجريمة المنظمة العابرة للحدود من تهديد حقيقي وتهديد آني للدول، لا نقول الدول الإفريقية بل نقول دول العالم. ازداد مؤخرا نشاط التنظيمات الإجرامية العابرة للحدود خطورة بعدما تمكنت من استغلال ما توفره التكنولوجيا الحديثة من سرعة في الاتصال، مما يستدعي منا هنا ونحن في هذا اللقاء الميمون وهذا الجمع المبارك الدعوة لبلورة خطط دولية وإقليمية ووطنية لمكافحة الجريمة المنظمة وتعزيز التعاون بين جميع الدول الحاضرة هنا وغيرها. في هذا الإطار لا يفوتني أن أشير أنه تم المنتظم الدولي اعتمد اتفاقية الأمم المتحدة لمكافحة الجريمة المنظمة عبر الوطنية لسنة 2000، اتفاقية باليرمو. هذه الاتفاقية التي صادقت عليها المملكة المغربية سنة 2002 كما صادقت على بروتوكولات الملحقين بها. كما تعمل حاليا المملكة، وهذا لا يفوتني الإشارة إليه، على ملائمة منظومتها الوطنية مع المقتضيات الدولية المشار إليها. فخامة الرئيس، في ختام هذا افتتاح هذه الدورة الميمونة، اسمحوا لي مرة ثانية أن أتقدم بخالص العبارات الشكر والتقدير والامتنان لفخامتكم حكومة وشعبا ولممثل النيابة العامة الكينية، وشكرا لكم.
I now call upon our sister country, Tanzania, Honorable Sylvester Mwakitalo, Director of Public Prosecutions, Tanzania.
Your Excellency, Dr. William Samuel Ruto, President of the Republic of Kenya, my colleagues, heads of prosecutions, authorities, member states of APA, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I understand that during the 3 days in this conference, we will discuss a lot on collaboration and coordination, and strengthening collaboration and coordination in the fight against transnational organized crimes. But I want to use this opportunity to express, on behalf of my country, the United Republic of Tanzania, to express my sincere gratitude to the government of Kenya for hosting this important event. And special thanks to the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, Kenya, for their kindness and their hospitality. We have enjoyed being in Kenya thank you for all that you've shown to us since our arrival in Kenya. In that order, I also want to use this opportunity to congratulate His Excellency Dr. William Samoei Ruto, President of the Republic of Kenya, for his victory in the recent presidential election. Hongera sana Mheshimiwa Rais. Your Excellency, Mr. President, as member states of APA, we consider ourselves to be specifically privileged to be blessed with your presence in this meeting. As we join hands in the fight against transnational organized crime, political will is very key in our success. Your presence here today is an indication that the battle to combat transnational organized crime receives your full support. Allow me to preach unwavering assurance to this meeting that the United Republic of Tanzania continue to honor this initiative of fighting transnational organized crimes by discharging its obligations under all relevant international and regional instruments, by establishing and putting in place both institutional and legal framework that aims at bolstering cooperation in investigation and prosecutions within the member states of APA. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Yeah, before I call upon Egypt, that is the presidency of the African Prosecutions Association, I will call upon two of our sister agencies here in Kenya to say a few words. And I will start with Captain Saitoti, my director, FRC, who will represent his other colleagues. Na Captain, hakuna speech, ukuje usifu ODPP tu.
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya and Commander-in-Chief of Kenya Defense Forces, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, Your Excellency, Prime Cabinet Secretary, Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, Your Excellency, the Governor of Mombasa, Honorable Abdul Samad Nasir, all protocols observed. Your Excellency, I'm not going to make a speech, but all what I can say is that as our nations continue to collapse our borders and allow the free flow of persons and capital, the more we open our borders to vulnerabilities related to organized crime. And not only do we lose billions of dollars to these criminals, but we also end up with many socio-political dilemmas that create threats and risks to our collective national securities. And there is a much that law enforcement can do, Your Excellency, to fight organized crime. But the success against organized crime lies with prosecution. This can only be achieved if there's close cooperation among prosecutors and coordination in prosecution of organized crime. This gathering today confirms this need, and your presence here also confirms your government commitment to this call. And as the head of the agency that is in your government that is mandated to identify processes of crime and deal with illicit financial flows, I can confirm and affirm to our colleagues in the continent that will play our part to ensure that this continent does not suffer from threats of organized crime. And lastly, prosecution is not good enough. But taking the illicit proceeds from criminal is good enough. Thank you, Your Excellency.
Thank you, my brother. I now want to call upon the Solicitor General. The Attorney General could not attend. He is in New York, and the Solicitor General is representing.
The President of the Republic of Kenya and Commander-in-Chief of the Kenya Defense Forces, Your Excellency Dr. William Samoei Ruto, the Prime Cabinet Secretary, Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, the Governor of the County of Mombasa, His Excellency Abdul Samad Sharif Nasir, my friend, the Director of Public Prosecutions of the Republic of Kenya, Mr. Nurdin Haji, all the judicial officers present here today, Attorneys General and public prosecutors present, leaders of bar associations present, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It's a great pleasure for me to have the opportunity to be part of this important forum this morning. This conference resonates perfectly well with the truism that the world is now a global village. Developments in technology and regional and international integration initiatives have made the cross-border movement of people and goods much easier. The opportunity for transnational crime has consequently increased, and to ensure that such crimes do not go undetected and unpunished, we need to ensure that there is proper coordination in law enforcement. This is why, ladies and gentlemen, this conference is an ample opportunity for us to compare experiences and share lessons on how we can better our domestic and transnational criminal justice systems. The coordination should not just be between jurisdictions, but also amongst the various criminal justice agencies in the country. More significantly, the coordination should go beyond basic legal principles, but also touch on best practices. It is my sincere belief that this conference will be productive and that we will leave this venue having shared and learned from each other's experiences. What we derive from this conference should provide us with the incentive to forge ahead with efficient law enforcement approaches that respond to the current emerging challenges. Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya, ladies and gentlemen, I'm most grateful for your time, and I wish everyone here a fruitful and exciting discourse. Thank you very much.
Your Excellency, I will now call upon Councillor Mohammed Khalaf from Egyptian Prosecutor General Office and the President of the Public Prosecutor to also say a few words. I hope it's not a long speech. Thank you.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. فخامة الدكتور ويليام ساموي روتو رئيس جمهورية كينيا، صاحب سعادة رئيس وزراء كينيا، صاحب المعالي النائب العام لكينيا، السادة أصحاب السعادة والمعالي الجمع الكريم، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. اسمحوا لي في البداية بالأصالة عن نفسي وبالنيابة عن أعضاء النيابة العامة المصرية ونيابة عن كافة أعضاء جمعية النواب العموم الأفارقة أن أتقدم بجزيل الشكر والامتنان إلى فخامة رئيس جمهورية كينيا وصاحب المعالي النائب العام لدولة كينيا على رعايته للمؤتمر الثانوي لجمعية النواب العموم الأفارقة، كما أتوجه أيضا بالشكر إلى دولة كينيا حكومة وشعبا على حفاوة الاستقبال وكرم الضيافة. لقد أثبتت جمعية النواب العموم الأفارقة أنها نموذج ناجح للتعاون بين دول القارة الإفريقية وملتقى لتبادل الخبرات والممارسات في مجال مكافحة الجريمة، كما ساعدت جهود الجمعية في رفع كفاءة وقدرات أعضاء النيابة العامة الإفريقية في التعامل والتصدي للأنواع المختلفة من الجرائم. وترى النيابة العامة المصرية بوصفها الرئاسة لجمعية النواب العموم الأفارقة في الدورة الحالية أهمية استمرار التعاون القضائي والقانوني لدعم العلاقات بين دول قارتنا وإننا كأعضاء هذه الجمعية نجد أنفسنا أمام تحديات جثام يفرضها ما يمر به عالمنا وقارتنا الإفريقية بصفة خاصة من تطورات وتغيرات غير مسبوقة وأزمات ومشكلات فريدة لها تأثير سلبي. ومن هنا يظهر دورنا كقائمين على سيادة القانون في دولنا إلى التصدي لجرائم متعددة الصور ومختلفة الأنماط، بالإضافة إلى ملاحقة الخارجين عن القانون فيها، وهو أمر غير معتاد التعامل معهم في صور الجريمة التقليدية. ومن ثم لكي نتمكن من أداء رسالتنا وواجبنا في الحفاظ على الأمن والسلم في بلداننا، فلا بد من حماية قانونية قائمة على العلم والمعرفة والتعاون فيما بيننا. السيدات والسادة، تعلمون جميعا أن دول القارة الإفريقية سباقة في احترام مبادئ حقوق الإنسان، وعلى رأسها الحقوق الاقتصادية والاجتماعية والحق في التنمية وحق الشعوب في العيش في أمن وسلام. ولهذا كان لجمعية النواب العموم الأفارقة دور هام في تعزيز أواصر التعاون بين هيئات الادعاء العام في القارة الإفريقية بالصورة التي تؤدي أو تعطي النموذج الإيجابي والناجح لعمل الجمعية. ومنذ رئاسة النيابة العامة المصرية للجمعية سعت إلى تنظيم فعاليات تهدف إلى رفع كفاءة أعضاء النيابة وتبادل الخبرات فيما بينهم بالشراكة مع العديد من المنظمات الدولية مثل المنظمة الدولية للهجرة IOM ومكتب الأمم المتحدة المعني بالمخدرات للجريمة UNODC. ونظرا للأهمية البالغة لدور جمعية النواب العموم الأفارقة في إبراز الجهود لمكافحة الجريمة وملاحقة مرتكبيها، فإن الجمعية تمد جسور التعاون مع جميع التنظيمات الإقليمية النظيرة، سواء التي أنشئت بموجب اتفاقيات أو التي أنشئت بدونها، وذلك من أجل الاستفادة من تجاربها وتطوير عمل الجمعية ليكون أكثر فاعلية في مجال مكافحة الجريمة. فنحن بدأنا بالفعل في العام الماضي بالربط بين جمعية النواب العموم الأفارقة وجمعية النواب العموم العرب، وأصبح لدينا تجمعا إقليميا يتجاوز عدده 47 دولة بما يشكل أكثر من ربع الكرة الأرضية. ونسعى في الوقت الحالي في تطوير علاقتنا بوكالة اليوروجاست الأوروبية للاستفادة من تجاربها وإيجاد آلية لبحث وإنشاء آليات للتعاون فيما بيننا وبينها. وختاما، فإن النيابة العامة المصرية بصفتها رئاسة جمعية النواب العموم الأفارقة في الدورة الحالية تؤكد أن العمل الجاد نحو التطور والسعي لمعرفة كل ما هو جديد والبحث عن أفكار جديدة مبتكرة لربط هيئات الادعاء العام ببعضها هي على رأس أولوياتها منذ بداية دورة الرئاسة للجمعية. وفي النهاية لا يسعني إلا تجديد الشكر لدولة كينيا حكومة وشعبا على حسن التنظيم وكرم الضيافة، وعلى رأسها فخامة رئيس الجمهورية. وأيضا أتوجه بالشكر إلى صاحب المعالي النائب العام لما يتم بذله من جهد في تنظيم فعاليات المؤتمر السنوي، متمنيا للجميع دوام التوفيق. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
شكرا. Your Excellency, we are about now to wind up. But before I call the next set of speakers, I just want to ask some of the people that I was not able to call up here to just recognize them, and maybe they can stand up. There is Justice Lesit, who is representing the Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya. There is Madam Jedida, who is the Director General of the Witness Protection Agency. And we have the LSK President, who is also my President, Mr. Eric Theuri, present. Your Excellency, I will now call upon His Excellency Abdulswamad Sharif Nasir, the Governor of Mombasa County, to come and say a few words.
Your Excellency, I'm the only person who Nurdin did not stand behind. Mine is to, one, thank you extremely. One of our key pillars as Mombasa is to ensure that we grow conference tourism And such levels of conferences are truly welcomed. And secondly, Your Excellency, this particular conference is ideal to be in Mombasa. Mombasa is one of the few counties probably that has 3 levels of borders that can be porous, and that is people can be able to sip in through land, through sea, and through air as well. So this is something that we truly welcome. And thirdly, Your Excellency, there's something that we want to make it into law as a county bylaw. And I hope that those who are listening can be able to take us seriously. We want, with your support, Your Excellency, we want whoever comes to Mombasa for these conferences, please make sure you finish all your money here in Mombasa. And as a county government, we want to assure the Office of the DPP and the organizers, we have excellent venues that you can be able to visit, from the Akamba Handicraft, where you can get authentic carvings, to our Sunday beaches, Mamangina Drive, to the Fort Jesus Historic, and other historical places like the Old Town, and so many more. And with your permission, we'll be able to keep a concierge desk to be able to assist your guests to go to wherever it is that they wish to go in Mombasa with a lot of ease. So thank you very much, and karibuni Mombasa. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I now have the honor of inviting the Prime Cabinet Secretary of the Republic of Kenya, Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, who will also take the opportunity to welcome His Excellency the President. Your Excellency.
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya and Commander-in-Chief of the Defense Forces, all the prosecutors present in this hall today, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'll be very brief. One of the things that I have learned is that you should never be on the wrong side of the prosecutors. So I will make sure that I'm very precise, lest we land into trouble. But let me just underscore that we have accompanied His Excellency the President here, and I can assure you that his presence is really a very strong and emphatic message that the rule of law is absolutely critical for a country to function effectively and for the region to function effectively. So with those few remarks, I will now invite His Excellency the President so that he can step forward and make his remarks. Thank you.
Please, let's take our seats. Thank you very much. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Welcome to Mombasa. On behalf of Governor Nasir and the government of Kenya, I take this opportunity to welcome you to Mombasa, this historic city. For those of you who have read a bit of history, this is where Vasco da Gama operated from, and he's taken quite a bit of history lessons in Kenya. So find your way around, you will find traces of Vasco da Gama and all the other people that came around for business, for trade, and eventually became part and parcel of our history. It is an honor for me to join you this morning at this very important gathering And before I proceed, I take this opportunity to welcome you to Kenya. As you may have already discovered, is a land of unparalleled natural splendor, magical attractions and wonderful delights, and warm hospitality. We invite you to take advantage of this visit and savor the full range of magical Kenya and look forward to an experience that you can remember. I recognize Attorney Generals present in our meeting, Directors of Public Prosecutions, and Prosecutors General present in this conference, and I do not take your attendance for granted. Noting that this gathering is our continent's top professionals in law enforcement sector is the 16th annual Africa Prosecutors Association Conference and annual general meeting. I commend the leadership and entire membership of the association for the consistency with which you have pursued the continuous and incremental development of the prosecutorial discipline. The evolution and growth of a Pan-African network of government legal professionals specialized in the domain of law enforcement is a highly encouraging development for many reasons. First, it signifies the entrenchment of a sustainable framework for the consistent enhancement of professional capacity in the areas of public prosecutions. Secondly, this framework holds great promise as a robust anchor for effective collaboration and the establishment and maintenance of effective cross-border networks based on mutual understanding among professionals in law enforcement. Thirdly, with the advent of globalization, the emergence of transnational criminal activities of great variety and complexity, relying on sophisticated technology and taking advantage of public and private sector infrastructures, demands the creation of commensurate law enforcement infrastructure capable of disrupting them and enforcing accountability. Pessimists frequently lament that Africa is vulnerable because it lags behind in effectively plugging into the opportunities brought about by globalization. The existence of a long-standing Pan-African network of specialized legal professionals, however, indicates that we have the potential to get ahead of the most daunting threats to law and order, regardless of sophistication or complexity. Your presence in this forum today is great news for Africa and also for Kenya. This event is highly welcome, and we are delighted and honored to host you. It is not lost on us that the privilege of hosting an event of this magnitude is an expression of confidence in the office of the Director of Public Prosecution here in Kenya. The honor of hosting a continental conference of this standing is not conferred casually or arbitrarily. Because of the transparent and accountable manner in which the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution operates, it is possible to observe the facts regarding its performance and achievements which elicited this tremendous peer endorsement. Since its establishment just over a decade ago, the ODPP has made impressive progress on a consistent basis with cumulatively radical impact on efficiency and efficacy of the law enforcement sector. Year after year, the ODPP has been able to report considerable improvement in the capacity to prepare files and prefer charges which can sustain high rates of prosecution and conviction. To do so, the ODPP deliberately enhanced the professional, technological, infrastructural, and organizational capacity to fulfill its constitutional mandate under Article 157 and 158 of the Constitution of Kenya and live up to its vision to be a just, fair, and responsive prosecution service. In order to fulfill its mission of providing its services impartially, effectively, and efficiently, the ODPP resolved to pursue the strategic path of specialization in the context of incrementally deepening organizational capacity. For this reason, it disaggregated its functions into 3 departments with 16 thematic areas. This facilitated dedicated focus on conventional as well as emerging criminal activity, promoting greater efficiency. As a result, the ODPP is now able to handle corruption and economic crimes, banking and financial crimes, land, environment, and related crimes, international and transnational crimes, as well as organized crime, in addition to a robust capacity to effectively prosecute offenses involving children. Also, gender-based violence, hate speech, and election-related issues, besides others against the persons and offenses against public order. The rate of success has dramatically improved and continues to rise, creating confidence within the rest of the law enforcement chain, as well as the public, that accountability for criminal offenses is a feasible public good. I'm also aware that the ODPP is a highly modernized, professional, and future-looking organization able to effectively engage in a rapidly evolving law enforcement environment. Its responsiveness is enhanced through an active stakeholder engagement strategy. Beyond aspiring to achieve complete digitization, which is part of the overall government policy in digitizing all government services, the ODPP aims to fluently deploy artificial intelligence and blockchain technology to unlock crime mapping, incident, and partner forecasting capabilities. I have encouraged our Director of Public Prosecution to deploy all necessary capabilities, especially in the technology space, with the support of the whole of government, so that we can leapfrog our capabilities and capacities in managing crime, both at national and international level. The ODPP has demonstrated that through scrupulous adherence to its constitutional mandate, continuous pursuit of high professional standards, and strategic leveraging of technology, an institution can grow rapidly within a short period and attain global standards of excellence. I say this also knowing clearly that there has not been a smooth operation of the institution. There's been threats to it from politics and other elements. And when you speak about political goodwill or political will, it is a fundamental ingredient in ensuring that justice is delivered and the criminal justice system remains independent, remains professional, and remains focused on its mandate. I am aware, of course, of the challenges that this office has gone through in the past, and I have given my commitment and that of the government of Kenya to support the criminal justice system and to ensure that the criminal justice system is not weaponized for political reasons. Every citizen, irrespective of their political persuasion, is entitled to fair treatment by all public institutions. It is the least any citizen can expect from government. This broad account serves to demonstrate the steady improvement in the ODPP's role in increasing the effectiveness of law enforcement in Kenya. I am sure that a considerable portion of this impressive achievement is attributed to the fact that the ODPP fraternizes with Pan-African networks of ambitious, professional, effective, and forward-looking professionals determined to keep our territories and people safe and secure. And listening to those of you who have had an opportunity to speak in this conference, I am confident that your influence over our Office of the Director of Public Prosecution is evident. And I can see clearly that fraternizing with the kind of people, with the kind of experience that I see in this room has greatly improved our own performance of the Office of Director of Public Prosecution in Kenya. And I want to encourage you to continuously ensure that you share experience, you share knowledge, you build networks to support our continent. I am a great believer that this is the continent of the future. We have tremendous opportunity as a continent. We are a continent of great resources. We are a continent that has 65% of all uncultivated arable land in the world, and therefore we hold the future to not only feeding the world, but steamrolling the economy of the world into the future. In any case, a quarter of the people in the world will be living in this continent by 2050, and therefore it is necessary for us to continuously constitutionalize our politics and our governance, democratize our economies, and build sound institutions to protect our governance and to protect our economies. And in the middle of those institutions is the criminal justice system that you, the prosecutors, have the honor to preside over. I want to encourage you that the future of our continent, the future of the institutions of our continent is in your able hands to protect those institutions from criminal elements, from unnecessary and undue political influence, so that we can march into the future knowing very well that we are on sound footing of a constitutional governance framework in our continent, protected by a democratized economic framework that allows every citizen from the bottom up, and ensuring that institutions are built strong enough to secure our collective future. From this point, in the evolution of our prosecutorial institutions, it is time to venture forth into the next frontier. The theme of this conference adequately anticipates the next sequence, demonstrating that our confidence in the power of the APA to challenge, inspire, and positively influence the trajectory of law enforcement throughout Africa is not misplaced. Strengthening coordination and cooperation towards effective cross-border prosecution of transnational organized crimes is highly welcome, timely, and appropriate theme for this conference. Due to its abundant resource of endowments, Africa continues to bear the brunt of transnational organized crimes which relentlessly threaten well-being, security, law and order in all parts of the world, and specifically in our continent. The impact of such threats to the rule of law pose social, political, and economic consequences to our nations and societies of magnitude that are too dire to contemplate. Transnational organized crimes is a lethal and direct threat to the aspirations and goals of Agenda 2063 towards the Africa we want. The rule of law is the foundation of the continent's renaissance and the guarantor of our aspirations to achieve shared prosperity for all our nations in our lifetime. I am very confident that this is achievable, and this conference, therefore, is a platform for professionals to deliberate on collaborative strategies of ensuring that there are no safe havens for criminals in Africa. It is my hope, therefore, that this conference will enable us collectively advance in developing a robust mechanism for detecting and disrupting radicalization of the youth, terrorism and violent crimes, illicit trafficking of arms, narcotics, minerals, flora and fauna, as well as their complementary financial crimes, including money laundering and the technological backbone of cybercrime. The prosecutor's dynamic jurisdiction is ever expanding. Humanity is presently besieged by the adverse effects of the triple planetary crisis, the human contribution to climate change and loss of diversity is posing an existential challenge to all life on Earth. Pollution is, of course, an exclusive human effect. The effort to protect the planet by pushing back on the drivers of the planetary crisis entails efforts to prevent deforestation and the decimation of rare species through poaching and illicit trade. This is the context in which Africa prosecutors must view crimes like poaching, illegal logging, and various configurations of trafficking. This is the urgency with which prosecutors must approach offenses related to pollution in all its manifestations. The stakes are high. Let me say the stakes are very high. I urge you to radically enhance your capacity to pursue and deliver environmental justice, and I commend you for including environmental crime as a transnational organized crime as a subject for your deliberations in this conference. Given that many of the challenges we face in Africa are shared global phenomena, I encourage the Africa Prosecutors Association to expand its collaborative network in order to plug into the framework of international cooperation and develop multilateral agency strategies for the prosecution of transnational organized crime. And I welcome the suggestions and also the offer by our development partners to work with us in ensuring that we build on the successes that already exist, the networks that already exist, the capacities that are in place for us to improve on our capacities locally and shared across the continent. This conference is therefore an opportune moment to strengthen regional, continental, and global frameworks of cooperation and the collaborative development of bilateral, regional, and multilateral strategies that enhance synergy and leverages the body of existing instruments to prevent and deter new and emerging crimes. Prosecutors are the gatekeepers of the criminal justice system. They are the most visible custodians of the rule of law and the guardians of public interest in the enforcement of accountability for criminal offenses. The expectations which fall on the prosecutor are heavy. To discharge them, prosecutors must enhance the credibility of the institution and overall legitimacy of law enforcement by fiercely asserting their independence, consistently demonstrating fairness, and being guided solely by the law. Let me repeat, guided solely by the law. I understand that prosecutors occasionally come under immense pressure for other political considerations. I want to encourage you that you have an opportunity as a prosecutor to make history, to build an institution that can transcend your own term in office by not succumbing to impunity, by not kowtowing to political convenience, but standing up for the institution that you represent and ensuring that prosecutions are independent in word and in deed. I say so without minimizing the working environment that many of you work under. Sometimes you have huge challenges. Sometimes you have huge and monumental customers, if I may say. And sometimes it is overbearing in an office. I was listening, for example, yesterday, and that's why I know the job of a prosecutor is difficult. I was listening yesterday to one of our politicians who was alleging that members of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission went to his house. And he's telling this story 5 months after the act. And he's volunteering this information laced with insinuations that the officials had gone there for something he has not disclosed. It begs the question, if it is true, what were these officials doing in your house at your invitation? Being a candidate, how did you end up inviting officials of an independent body to your house? It also begs the question, you had an opportunity to bring up this evidence of alleged bribery before 7 judges of the Supreme Court. You did not. You have instead chosen to take this big announcement to a political rally. I can see that the job of a prosecutor is really difficult if you have to deal with such. However, the government of Kenya remains committed to promoting public confidence in constitutionalism and the rule of law by respecting, defending, and upholding the independence of national institutions and eradicating undue influence and weaponizing tendencies. We are committed to promoting an ideal environment for the revival of prosecutorial zeal, guided by national values and principles of governance and underpinned by sound grasp of constitutional mandate. I therefore affirm that the government of Kenya will deliver on its commitment to allocate adequate resources to enable agencies throughout the governance, justice, law, and order sector, including the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution, to perform their functions effectively and efficiently. We have not, and I have told the Director of Public Prosecution, we have not asked the Director of Public Prosecution's office to do any favor for us in return for funding their office. It is their right to discharge their mandate as an office, that a mandate given to them by the Constitution of Kenya. And we have no trade-offs, and we will have none. We want them to discharge their responsibility. We will do ours, and we must be founded on a firm, strong foundation of the rule of law. It goes without saying that a commitment to prosecutorial zeal must always take full cognizance that we are a democratic society dedicated to the realization of the greatest extent of fundamental rights and freedoms. In this context, the measure of professionalism, integrity, and legitimacy is the protection of fundamental rights and freedoms of citizens as the principal end of law enforcement. I think, let me repeat this for clarity. I have said the measure of professionalism, integrity, and legitimacy is the protection of fundamental rights and freedoms of citizens as the principal end of law enforcement. As I conclude, I commend the Africa Prosecutors Association for graciously designating Kenya to host this year's conference, and congratulate the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution for earning that great opportunity on behalf of Kenya. Being able to join you today has affirmed my optimism in the future of governance, the rule of law, justice, and law enforcement on our continent. And we look up to you as policymakers to stand up to any measure or any kind of impunity in our continent, so that we can harness the opportunity and the great momentum that we can to drive our continent into prosperity. The history of peace, security, and shared prosperity in Africa shall have a chapter dedicated to the role of prosecutors in faithfully stewarding sustainable development by safeguarding the integrity of our vital institutions. And maybe I am making this conference too serious, but if any one of you underestimated the seriousness of what you do, let me again say, the future of institutions of our continent will depend to a great extent on the performance of prosecutors in safeguarding the institutions of governance of our continent. I now declare the 16th Annual Africa Prosecutors Conference officially open, and wish you very fruitful deliberations. God bless you all. God bless Kenya, and God bless our great continent of Africa. Asanteni sana. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.